With me now, my all-star legal panel. I have former AUSA Gene Rossi, trial attorney and legal analyst Monique Pressley, who's represented Bill Cosby in the past, and former federal prosecutor Elise Adamson, also here. Let's unpack this all. Elise, let me begin with you. Listen, having Kid Cudi testify, everyone was leaning in. They were very much engaged. It talked about his Porsche being set on fire, this love triangle that Diddy and Cudi were unaware of, apparently. But does it move the needle on the RICO racketeering case?
Laura, I think it absolutely does, because if you read in the indictment, the arson is one of the predicate offenses for the racketeering activities that the government must prove. And that's a crime that has to have been committed at the direction of this corrupt enterprise. And that's what they were getting at this arson. And so they were laying a very strong foundation. The defense on cross, well, they tried to make it seem like Kid Cudi had no idea who had blown up his car. And that's true. He wasn't there. But they completely ignored the fact that Cassie had just testified that Sean Combs has, in fact, threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car. And so there is that link there that prosecutors drew out very early. And I think that was a huge score for the prosecution.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. Well, of course, Elise said it, so I can agree. You said
I love a prosecutor, a defense attorney having the same viewpoint. Monique, go ahead.
You said be conversational. The reason I like this witness, and it follows up to what Elise just said, I look at an indictment, and when I'm a prosecutor, I'm always thinking about what are the elements of this charging document. For RICO, you need an enterprise, and it's easy to prove the enterprise. It was his business, his empire. You need to connect this arson to the enterprise because he's using at least one or two associates to help him break into Cudi's home, and inferentially, by circumstantial evidence, he torched the Porsche with the Molotov cocktail. So you're connecting the arson to his use of the enterprise. It's sort of like The Sopranos. You can't just separate them. And I think they connected one key dot by the arson, by connecting it to the enterprise, because he's using employees to help him out, and he has the motive to do it.
Well, Monique, do you see it the same way? Because on the one hand, I think people think about the enterprise. I mean, it's called Bad Boy Enterprises, right? And of course, his whole umbrella of entities are included, whether it's liquor or clothing or lifestyle, et cetera. It sounds like he's suggesting that because that enterprise exists and then an arson occurred, the enterprise works to actually commit just those crimes.
Right. I mean, and it's very much like The Sopranos right now because it's fiction. Like, there's no actual evidence of it that's been entered in at trial. I was wondering as I was reading it, where was the other crimes exception? Like, how is it working in here when you've got a witness on the stand who says that some other witness said that their car is going to get blown up? Do I know who blew up my car? No. Was I there when my car was blown up? No. Was I aware that the DNA for the person that was found in the car was a female, not a male? No. I mean, maybe it's the defense attorney in me, but I do believe that if you're charged with crimes, then the high standard for a criminal trial is beyond a reasonable doubt. And in the land of, wishes, hopes, and dreams, we could say he's using his enterprise like having a business, which isn't against the law. And we've got these employees, who are they, by the way, who are helping him to do what exactly? None of that is in evidence at this point.
There was a moment, too, when they did suggest, and there's objections, no one's actually been charged for the crime of the car. And I wondered how that was going to hit with the jury because, again, they're trying to connect dots of what ultimately they're going to be asked to do. RICO, sex trafficking, and, of course, prostitution. Do you think that there is a risk that the prosecution has not connected the dots at this stage yet?
I think they're connecting them. As my teenage daughter might say, we got to let them cook, right? This is the Southern District of New York. They have a very high conviction rate. I do agree with you, Monique, that they haven't completely connected them all, but I think they're laying that foundation. And remember, this is racketeering conspiracy. All they need to prove is that Combs entered into an agreement for this predicate act or this arson to have been committed. And they haven't. This is like week 2. They have 6 more weeks. They're probably going to call more employees to finish connecting those dots. Because I agree with you. If they don't, they're not going to get it. But I find
6 more weeks of thinking. I mean, I had to tell you 6 more weeks of trying to do what they're doing would be surprising. I mean, they might include, obviously, the defense case as well, but then you have what the prosecution, as we know, has the burden of proof. Their order of witnesses and who they're calling. They've called a LA hotel manager to talk about the rooms being trashed. Obviously, freak offs, aftermath. They've got the makeup artist who is talking about this violence and what she has seen. You had a number of people talking about domestic violence. The defense, day one, opening statement, he's a domestic abuser. We own that. He's not the other things. What does the makeup artist or the LA hotel employee, how does that move the needle, you think?
Well, can I just add a rebuttal to what the great professor just said? No?
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Elise brought up a point that Cassie Ventura mentioned that Combs had threatened to commit arson on her car, okay? So Cudi may not have directly seen Combs do the dirty deed, but it corroborates what Cassie said, point number one. Now let's go to what you asked about.
But wait, before you do, now we're taking a little detour for a second. Let's say that Combs, in fact, did commit the arson, and he has denied that he's done so. Let's say he did so.
Yep.
Does it help the prosecution that now it looks as though there is a tangible result of his insane jealousy? But is it enough to show that a criminal enterprise has helped to facilitate sex trafficking and the like?
Yes. If you have a business, and it could be a legitimate business, and his was for most purposes, if you are using that business, employees, independent contractors, friends, associates, to do a pattern of criminal acts to threaten people so that you can engage in sex trafficking, or just the Mann Act, if you're using those employees...
The Mann Act is traveling across state lines for sexual purposes.
And you don't need force, fraud, or coercion. If you're using your business, whether it's a lumber business, a farm, or Combs' enterprise, and you're using it to commit a pattern of related acts to commit sex trafficking Mann Act, then that's RICO. You have satisfied RICO. I want to just say this. I've done a fair number of trials, and too many. But the first day, the first week, the second week of a trial, if it's going to go 8 to 12 weeks, it's the slow cooker thing, you know, the crock pot. You have to have a series of witnesses that connect the dots, and I think they're doing that.
Well, the only way to have a good crock pot meal is to season it well. And I'm not sure the salt and pepper is there right now in order to make sure. You got to have a lot more on there. But real quick, Monique, one of the things that they were trying to suggest was that both men were salty. See how both men were salty about the fact that they were being played by Cassie Ventura. That runs directly counter to the image the prosecution wants the jury to have of somebody who is helpless, who feels trapped, and could not possibly have ever been able to leave Diddy Combs without severe repercussions, violence, or revenge porn. He describes that he played them, that for a year they were uninterrupted in their ability to communicate and be together. What might that do to a jury who is trying to balance who they heard from the stand and who was described by Kid Cudi?
They're going to be looking at it and trying to figure out whether the person who they were looking at that day is the same as the person who's being described a decade earlier or not, and what it means. What's off the table is whether she was abused or not. As we talked about earlier this week, to me, the domestic violence has been proven, and they've seen it with their own eyes. Now, what they're going to assume about that, whether they accept this Hughes testimony or not, which to me is like appealable issue number one, because you got this person on the stand.
That's the psychologist who talked about the general patterns of what someone might do if they are abused.
But are utterly, completely useless. She's never met with and assessed and evaluated Miss Ventura, so why is she even on the stand? But that's just me. So we can't use her, but what they're going to look at and say is, okay, well, at some point she had some agency. And at some point she was making some decisions. What decisions was she making? And was this really a horrible love story, a horrible violent relationship, as opposed to a criminal enterprise? And that's why I said, you know, these are two good prosecutors. I'm not prepared to say that that's what I'm seeing.
You know what, later in the show, We're going to be talking to Johnny Depp's attorney,
Ben Chu.
Ben Chu, who actually also has a little familiarity with the person that you say may have had a useless testimony. I'm talking about that psychologist. I'll be curious to pick his brain. Everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have much more on the trial.